Shirin Neshat is an Iranian artist and filmmaker, and although based in New York, most of her inspiration does come from her native land. Her work explores the cultural, religious and political realities that shape the identities of Muslim women worldwide. Despite having been exiled from Iran for most of her adult life, with the new president, she remains hopeful about its future. Our culture editor, Paul Mason, has this report.
As an artist, she won prizes for her stark depictions of women in the Muslim world. Today, as a filmmaker, Shirin Neshat is telling the stories of women in the midst of a political and social revolution. And she says it's not over.
What we hear on the Western media, of course, is completely different in what you hear on the street level of all these countries. So I think we're still passing through a very interesting and critical place, which is not really sort of depending on demonstrations, street demonstrations, but more sort of internal other affairs that are going on underneath.
It was this life of mental revolt that Neshat explored in her last film, Women Without Men. Though set in the 50s, it was made during the 2009 uprising in Iran, which she supported. 4 years on, Iran has a new president, a moderate who recently invited Iranian exiles in America to come back. So will she go?
You know, there's a tremendous amount of hope in Iran and outside of Iran by people who were just literally paralyzed by the regime of Ahmadinejad, who took us back so many years. And we're really hopeful, and it's interesting how now in the Middle East there's so many different countries that are battling with issues. It's getting worse, but in Iran we seem to have a glimpse of transformation and hope. And I, like any other Iranian citizen, wish for a return.
You would go if they invited you?
They have not invited me.
Instead, she's spending time in Egypt to make a film about the hugely popular singer Kulthum, the voice of a generation of women in the 1950s who wore Western dress and lived a secular, nationalist dream that seems long gone.
I don't think it's nostalgia. I think it's important to go back to history. And if you're looking at the woman situation, how once the women were living and how they are living today, I think it's very important through the moment of crisis to revisit history.
How long do you think it will be until a woman like you can walk through the streets of Iran wearing what she wants?
Well, you know, I have a feeling it would be unrealistic to think that the Islamic regime will go away in the very near future. My feeling is that they're there to stay for a long time. And my feeling is that the Iranian people biggest concerns is not such an issue. The dress codes are bigger issues.
Such as?
The equal rights for women, the idea of having democracy in all facets of public lives and private lives.
What would you say to a society like ours that is having a lot of internal discussion about Muslim women and what they wear on their head?
In Iran, we have a problem. We have not a choice. And that's a fundamental flaw because I believe every woman should have a choice, whether it's for religious or folkloric or whatever reason they want to wear the veil, they should be. But if they don't choose to, they shouldn't have to.
Her work has explored our fears and stereotypes, but she says ultimately there are bigger things than this.
And we talked to Shirin Neshat about women and the veil in that piece. From tomorrow here on Channel 4 News, we have a series of reports on the debate about the wearing of the niqab in Britain. Is it the ultimate expression of faith and freedom, or are critics right to call for a limit on its use in public places? That's Britain's niqab this week on Channel 4 News.